happy to talk with anyone.
We do. So there's one from Kelly from Instagram.
Mm.
You talked about being special in a relationship and eroticizing special. Can you say more about how you eroticize something?
I don't know if I said eroticize special. Maybe I did. Can I talk about how you eroticize something? Sure. The best way is you get profoundly intimate with it. Anything you're intimate with, you're a little bit in love with. And anything you put quality attention on, you become intimate with. We used to do this funny little exercise where you would like just stare at something, but it was called obnosing, and you would notice every detail that you could notice about it. And then you would notice after doing that for 20 minutes, you felt this incredible warmth toward this inanimate object. And it was a really important lesson that you have control over your attention. You can imbue that kind of sparkly feeling that you feel when you're in love on anything. So then when you can take thoughts, you can take experiences, you can take memories, and you can hold them in that frame. Now you have to be not like on the merry-go-round of rumination in the middle of it. You can't, like, oh my God, I'm totally freaked out. I'm a little in love with something and I'm going to get intimate with it. And then you get intimate with it and then you listen. And when you listen, it has instructions, it has secrets for you, it has things it wants you to know. And then the best way then is just to follow those instructions. And sometimes they're really, really challenging, but you follow them. And then you begin to build a kind of trust with all things. The more you do that, then there's this fundamental trust. Then your ability to move in and out of experiences is much more facile, easier. And then once it's like that, then you can just begin to move anything into your frame and eroticize it. And by that, I mean, really, literally anything. You can take all of the things, we'll say, that plague women, like what? Like, I'm not attractive, or someone broke up with me, or any of those things. And you can move those into that space. And what's important is that you're intimate with and listening, not that you're adding anything to. So you aren't like, oh, this is great, or like, oh, this means this, or this must have happened because of this. No, it's just the experience itself. Anything naked is available to be moved by. How's that?
Thank you. And then Via on Instagram, how do you work with arousal in relationships where the person is in the hospital or sick or banal?
I'm going to just go with in the hospital.
Okay.
And well, that's a great place to work with it, because arousal, you don't have to work with it solely. In fact, Tibetan monks work with it without using the body at all. They have very, very strong visualization. And from that visualization, they have interactions with their yidam, these visualizations that are made into form. And they actually feel tangible and palpable in such a way that you have interactions, and those interactions can inspire a kind of arousal. So if that can happen with a visualization, then that can happen in any way with anyone at any point. And then you can have shared experience. You can have the experience of, really like sharing things that bring arousal for you with each other, and describing what it would be like, what it would feel like, what it did feel like, and what happened, and describing every single thing in your body. We call that a frame. So there was a moment where I felt this shot up my center, and it hit my heart, and then it almost was like it pinged down, and I could feel this entire area expanding and opening. And from that opening, there came this buzz down my thighs, and then I realized it felt like everything was purring. And then you can say that, and then they can have that experience. And then you can add in details. And then they leaned over and I could feel their hair brush, on my forehead. And when that happened, I noticed my whole face opened up and there was this feeling of hope or desire, whatever you wish to call it. And you can begin to tell stories in that way with each other. And they're as real as anything that's palpable. In some ways, in some forms of spirituality, those subtle body truths are the most real, the only real. And so I have a friend that I talk about, and he was a monk, and he was a monk with somebody, and he said, "Oh, I had a bad day. I didn't catch my thought at the origin of thought." And so there's a way that's where the most potent stuff lies, or in those first thoughts. That's where you really learn an algorithm of who somebody is. So to share at that thought level, at that felt level, at that subtle body level, that's if you can master that, that's where the greatest arousal lies, even far more than physical.
Thank you. Tom from Instagram, how does a man work with arousal in knowing when something feels real or not? And how does he not take on the projections?
I'm going to double check. You mean, does he mean, how does he not project onto a woman? Or how does he not
I think he
believe
means
her projections?
I think it's the second one.
And her projections that she's wearing, or her projections that she's projecting onto him?
I think onto him.
Okay. So how do you not? Well, let's just talk about projections, and really in many ways how the feminine works is there's two types of feminine. So the basic union feminine, before you hit 8th level bodhisattva, wants something. And she has a power of radiance. And from that radiance, she can, it's like a magic potion, right? That she can like delight and sway and move you. We all know that feeling when a beautiful woman, and she doesn't have to be like conventionally beautiful, but a beautiful woman. I just always picture her like walking down the stairs, and everyone can feel her before they can see her. There's something that she's radiating. So woman, who has that capacity for radiation in that way, and all women do, by the way, but one who cannot actually operate it. This is, the beginning of one of the siddhis, and so you would want to use it carefully. So from that radiating, if it's pure, then what'll happen is you'll go to totally clear. So you're asking me about, how to be with a projection. Well, you can know that it's it has klesha in it. If there isn't just a kind of pure clarity, and I often think here of what Suzuki Roshi said when he said, let it burn until there's no ashes, until there's no residue. That is the kind of radiation that you want to feel. If there are little hooks in it, if there's that feeling like that tug or that pull, or you have to, or rather than just vast open space, then there's a klesha. And so then what happened was whatever we'll say sense of insecurity, I don't actually believe we're insecure, but whatever program of insecurity that we have, whatever we believe we're lacking or desiring, if we feel like we don't have any power, and so we need proximal power, or we need attention, or we need to feel special, or we need to feel like we're the best, whatever that is, right? So then she'll use her magical powers to project you into being the solution for that insecurity. Does that make sense? And so if she perceives she's low power, she will project you into being powerful, and you'll actually feel powerful. That radiation will ignite that sense of power, and she'll and then use it to attract you to her. So this powerful person is now bestowing power upon her, and that's how she solves her problem until she discovers that she has her own. And so you can look for those things if you feel, really kind of extra powerful, or if you feel really kind of extra, I don't know, inflated is the word that Jung would use, then you can know that's not you, that's not her. That's just Klesha doing his thing, playing, having a good time with both of you at that point. And then what was the first question? That was the projection portion.
How does a man work with arousal in knowing when something feels real or not?
And so you can know with all things. One time I was working with a sponsor, and she said, I kept saying, I just follow my intuition. She said, well, how do you know? And then I really examined it for a good period of time. And I said, oh, when I think about it, I breathe. Mm-hmm. It makes me breathe. And other things make me hold my breath. That feeling where you're squeezing and holding, that's not that's not the feeling you're looking for. And but I will say that feeling passes as obsession, it passes as desire, it passes even as being in love, it passes as climax, it passes as great sex, it passes as all of these things. And so, but I can tell you very simply, when you have that feeling, you can know that you're being feasted on. You'll often think you're doing the feasting, but it's feasting on you. Just sucking you dry there. And so, so that's how you can know. And so this feeling with arousal should be like that feeling of really pure inspiration, that sense of being uplifted, and that sense of expansion. And there's this feeling of generosity that arises in you because suddenly you're full in this way. And so all of the things that we're told to do in spirituality are the natural result of arousal. And so if you feel anything other than that, then you're probably out of arousal. Then what you're probably in is what's called tanha. What you're in is thirst. What you're in is craving, which is the opposite of arousal, because arousal is dynamic and moving, and tanha is fixed and stuck.
Thank you. This is from Jan. You mentioned that sometimes women unintentionally encourage men to become insensitive to get what they want.
To get what the women want. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you elaborate on that?
I definitely can. And I just want to say, I'm so delighted that people are mentioning I said things. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so honored. Sometimes I think I'm just talking away, telling you these random thoughts that I have. Let's see. Okay. So how do we create monsters, right? It's tricky. It's very tricky. You're always training everyone around you how you want them to be with you. And everything you do, everything you don't do, everything you ignore, everything you pay attention, those are instructions to the world of how to be with you and how you hold yourself. And if you hold yourself in a way that can't be faked, in esteem, then your communications to the world are very, very different. So I can say what I've seen is there is you really caught it too, because of what she wants, right? So women often feel deficit. Now the deficit fundamentally, I'll give you the punchline, is arousal. So she doesn't just stay in arousal no matter what. And from that, there's a feeling of insufficiency. And then she looks for what it could be that she's missing. from the log of potential missing things in your life that each woman is given at birth. And so she's missing, I don't know, the popular guy loving her, or she's missing the strong man who only likes a certain kind of woman, or she's missing any of these things, right? She's missing a certain kind of comfort. Life is too intense for her. And so then she will not address those things. That's really the simplest way of saying it. But I will say that yelling at somebody is also akin to not addressing. So you yell when you feel powerless, when you're taken by somebody's behavior. And then what you're communicating when you're yelling or angry in that way is that you don't have esteem. So you're communicating in your training to people to treat you poorly. That's the subtle communication. So then how do you do it? Well, here's the worst part. This is even worse. And that is that you have to get in there where you least want to be. So, you're desperate for love, we'll say, and a companion or something. And somebody is insensitive to you, as you said. And in that moment, what do you say to yourself? Because now you've awakened a fear of loss. You were so desperate for this love, and they're insensitive. And you, if you address it, a whole series of things could happen. And if you don't, then you have to look at what are those series of things in your mind. Oh, he might think I'm difficult. That's a big one for women. Or he might think I'm controlling, or he might think I'm a bitch, or he might get ashamed and punish me, or he might go find a woman who's easier. The whole series of things that we tell ourselves, which become the reasons that we don't address things, which then reinforce them. And then in doing so, you're creating that person in your life with that experience. And so the biggest thing is that we think the culprit is him. No, the culprit is the enslavement to the idea that you think that something is missing that would have you bypass the internal directives that you have.
Thank you. This is from Teresa. As a woman who's been in a long-term relationship, I'm starting to realize that I may have enabled patterns in my partner, like my partner being okay with me doing most of the cooking, cleaning, while also dismissing my feedback when I try to communicate things that are difficult for him to hear. How can someone in my position start to shift these dynamics?
That's a great question. They're just grooves. I mean, that's the first thing I start with is like, they're just grooves. And so grooves can be with deliberate time, attention, and a lot of arousal is what I would suggest. Otherwise, it's a lot of time. They can be melted out or dissolved. Okay, so that's the first part. And the biggest thing I would suggest is often when we realize that we have created a pattern in a relationship, we get very serious and very grave. It's sort of like, what do I do here? I must do something. And the feeling is immediately, in order to change this long-term pattern in a person, because I realized I've bypassed my own desire, really is what it is, for a long period of time. And really what's happening is it's waking up and just being like, what, how, where, what? And so, the first thing I suggest is imagine taking a little time, add some arousal and add some humor. That's really the best one. And then deep inside, I would look at not mowing the lawn. You have to look at, oh, what in me did this? And it's probably from the last question where you were scared you would lose love. So you just did everything in the beginning. You did the cooking, the cleaning, you're the perfect wife, perfect lady, in order to get him to love you. Now you feel comfortable that he loves you, but you feel uncomfortable because he doesn't love you. He laughs. I feel like I am in an Oprah show or something. He loves the facade that you made, and so there's a lot to be done for women in discovering the facade. And how often, how much of your life is original you? How much of your life is, your thought to your mouth, your thought to your heart to your mouth? How much of it is direct? Most people I know, it is like 20%. They're so riddled in ideas of how to look, how to be, how to, seduce, how to allure, all of the things to do, that you don't actually get a human being. And so the more important question is, like, what would make it worth it to you to be exactly who you are at any cost? What would make it worth it to you to respond in the depths of your true desire, to be true to your desire? When it tells you to leave, when it tells you to stay, when it tells you to hold, like at every moment, when it tells you to say that, when it tells you to don't say that. That's a hard one sometimes for me. All of these things, when it does that, and to follow with that kind of fidelity, I will tell you, my experience is that's the relationship we're looking for. We think it's out there, but if you don't have that relationship with your desire, no matter what's out here, it's going to be wrong in some way. It's going to be, I have to pretend because, and it'll be riddled with confusion. You'll have the sense that you never quite know what to do. What's the right thing to say? Oh my God. So I would take the time and do that before I say anything to anybody, because sometimes you can have the flash. Oh my God, I'm in this thing, and then you say, and I need you to change and start cooking 4 nights a week, and then you just fall back into the same pattern, and then you just have so much rupture in the relationship. Build this and let it radiate out.
Thank you.
Did you guys ever see that? I may have mentioned that these women, they're like 5 Black women, and the one will say something that's sort of like new age, cool, like they say to leave your heart at the door. And they all go, So anyway, I do that with my friend Topeka.
This one's from Sonia. What do you do when you hit up against a wall of desire, where you can feel something is there and it feels a bit distant? I often feel like there's so much underneath that wants to be expressed, and then I will feel myself get stuck watching it like a movie.
Here's what's so interesting about how you phrase that is, what do you do when you hit up against a wall of desire? And then you said, it feels so distant.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting, because you aren't hitting up against a wall. You haven't reached your desire. So we aren't sure. And then you're underneath it as well, right? And so you're in all of these relationships to it, is what I'm going to say. So the first thing I do is I have my practices that get me to the other side of the valence. Every single time you have a block in your desire, it is based on the fact that you have some conception about that desire. Usually, let me see, it's something you didn't express about the last desire you had. Perhaps you wanted more. Or it's something that you did and you still have judgment, you still have a residue of judgment about what you did, or you have it somehow conflicts with your idea of who you think you are. And so there's some kind of congestion that's happening. And so what you want to do is sit, get out of right and wrong, get out of it. Sit and be honest. Now, when you first go, this is one of the hardest parts, because seeming desire can be so urgent. And so I often say, okay, I want this. Okay, and what do you want from that? What do you want from that? What do you want from that? And I keep distilling it down until I really have a clear idea of the feeling that's rising up. Because it's desire arises, you don't make it. So you're trying to be in relationship with it, and you're trying to know it at its essence. When you know it at its essence, then you can let it go, because then it'll start working itself and coming into your life. Suddenly, you'll be able to speak when you need to speak. You'll be moving in the right direction toward it. You won't feel that lockup in the face of it. And we call that powered. You'll be powered. You'll be powered by your desire to do exactly what expresses your desire. Mostly what you have to do is just remove all of the crossed wires but the most important thing that I know of, and I say this often here, is to know the deepest desire. Like one of the things, one of my editors, Courtney, sent me a part of my memoir, just a line from the memoir. She said, "You've been doing this for a long time," and I said, I didn't do anything special. I just made a vow that was deeper than my habits. And because I did taste a feeling that was so compelling, I call it the eternal room, but it was so profound. It was the world on the other side of karma. And it was stunning. It was incredible. And I knew I wanted to live there. And I knew that it would probably be challenging getting there. And so I made a vow underneath that. And then, of course, all of the habits arise that are not that, we'll say. And it's you are out in the drop of a hat. That's what I'll say. It is stunning how quickly, because you're working. They call it with the dakinis. We'll just say the dakinis. So if you have a vow to keep going in this direction, and you're going in another direction, they don't just, open the door for you and wave. Good luck out there. Sorry if it's called, prayers and well-being. And so you have to make sure that you're in that kind of relationship with whatever the desire level that you want to live at. So you have to determine, though, what would be the most profound, beautiful, spacious, meaningful place you could imagine living. And then you have to set your attention there. And no matter what, that becomes your compass to move you through all other things, so that you aren't dragged around by finite desire, like the waves of karma that send you to and fro with this exhausted mind. You don't want that. That's not desire. That's gripping.
Thank you. This is Richard. How do I love a woman who is scared of losing her false sense of sovereignty? It comes in completely, but then runs, and she is running into a world of hurt. But she presents herself as a healer and tries to run my problems against me and constantly use the excuse that I don't know her, but I have known her for 30 years.
Okay. You love her just like that. Yes. There's no other way to love her. Sounds like all of those things are true. I might take off some of the diagnosis and ideas, and I might ask a lot of questions. I can tell you, men tend to think that they are being intimate or putting their attention on a woman when they're helping her or doing the right thing for her. But that isn't what a woman wants. What she wants is somebody to go on the cosmonaut journey of the mind with her and the heart. She wants someone to explore her. I mean, I don't know that you know her, is what I would say. You may. I mean, I'm not going to argue, but I know very few women, very, very few women who are known. And we are very trained to present to the world. And what she sounds like to me is a woman who's exhausted of having so many valences, but she doesn't know another way. And probably, I know I used to be a big runner. And part of that was I would get exhausted having to be something. I was running one taste, and oh God, every minute was an obligation minute. And so then just hanging out with people, everything felt like an obligation. And so in that, I couldn't do it anymore. So I would just be like out of there. And so we don't know. That's what I would say. I would, if you say, how do I love her? I would say, ask her 1,000 questions and be genuinely interested in her response and let it shape, let it carve you out in such a way that informs how you love her.
Beautiful.
People in the room.
We will go to Sarah on Zoom.
Hello, my lady.
Hi. Hey. Um, Question about, you said about like the men as conduits in the consorting relationship. And just curious, like something about training, like the training, not training them to be dakas, but training them to be good conduits. Or is that our job as women? I mean, I know it's our job. We do a lot of training. Just wanted to get a little more elaboration on that.
I don't know that anything is your job.
Oh.
I know that I'm an artist, and what I like to see is beautiful. And there isn't enough I could do in order, if I see a new way to draw out beauty, there aren't enough hours in the day to do that. And so I will say it's an extraordinarily complex, and challenging practice. It becomes your practice. So your emotional spectrum is put on the line, fully open with this human being. And you have to then, because you have to be so open that you sense everything. And I want you to think about that. So if you think about it in terms of like a boyfriend, how much do you not want to know? And, like, oh, you don't want to know that he didn't think you were attractive yesterday. You don't want to know that he is texting another woman. You don't want to know. You want to know, but you don't want to know. Like there's all of these things that you don't want to know. But you just, from a consort's eyes, from a place of fullness, you see everything. And then what you do, the training is you see everything. And then the first thing you test for is how close their version of what you're seeing, they're saying. That's the first thing you do, right? Because you have to know what you're working with. So you see that yesterday at 2:00, they were thinking about the woman who was sitting across from you and actually thought, I'm going to leave you for her. You know that in your woman way. And then you say, did that happen? And then you're pointing to it, and like the longer it takes, the less worthwhile this particular training is going to be. You want, because the hardest part is, as a consort, you're the most valuable thing. You're the most, as Ed says, you're the most precious thing. The most precious thing. And if you're training somebody, especially in a culture that's trained men to believe that women are inferior, even feminist men, let's be honest, or that they're objects, or that, they're here to supply, the man with his whatever it is. All of these, and you're working with all of that. And so you have to determine that it's gonna be for, fundamentally it's for love itself. It isn't for you, it isn't for him, it's for what you vow to tend to. So then that's why I say stay in arousal, because otherwise those things you see are going to be very painful, and you won't be able to transform them, and then you're useless. You aren't helpful if you're gripped. If you're ever gripped, that's not good. So you got to get out of the gripped position, and then there are two things. So what I always say, if I have a consort, is there's two things that you have to do no matter what. At some point in high arousal, they will see you in your majesty. And that will be what has them determine that their aim is to be in pitch perfect response, because you're the door to where they want to go. And so they'll see that. But people have bad habits. The first is forgetting, and the second is being insensitive. It's very few people who can mentalize your experience. And so if I can't mentalize your experience, I'm as a DACA, I'm useless. In fact, I'm supposed to be like an emotional ghostwriter. I'm supposed to be inside of you, always writing your story a little bit better, always in this way, bringing everything that I have to add to whatever it is you're serving. And so if I can't mentalize, if I can't be inside of your experience, if I'm not sensitive in that way, if I can't imagine what my actions would make you feel, then I'm just stuck, rigid. So first thing you want to see is, do they tell the truth quickly? Then the second is, what is their capacity for memory, and memory of the majestic you? Meaning, when they're in this situation, can they remember? I call it the 2-track mind. Can you always keep your mind on the deepest state of arousal, living there, and on the moment? Can you be sensitive to the moment? Can you do both? So that, I hold my vow so deeply that no matter what comes in, who promises me what, or, who threatens what, it doesn't matter. I don't deviate. I just don't. This will not deviate. And that's what you want to know in a DACA. That's his purpose, is, in undeviating resoluteness to carry out the vision that you have accessed from behind you, that he's seeing through you. So if he's your DACA, and you're here naked and open and splayed, so that you can pour your wisdom, your vision onto him, and he's just grabbed by the slightest little thing, and he's getting your energies, your powers, and he's using them for personal purposes, he's got to go immediately. It's just, depending on how serious it is, it's either full-time go or brief go, but there has to be a break at that moment. It has to be 100% clear, and that's incumbent upon you. And how he relates to you, or how you relate to him, is a signifier of how you're relating to your calling. He is a visual expression of how you're relating to your calling. And so if you ever let him bypass something, that's because you're letting yourself bypass it with your purpose. Like, say he's taking your energies and using it on another woman. right? That without a way that feels like it's connected to you, right? That could mean that you're taking these emptiness energies and you're using them to get love. And that's not what they're meant for. They're meant to feed the world, nourish the world. So you have to stay really clean here in order to stay really immediate here. And it has to be immediate. It cannot be like a week, a month. It can't be later when you're pissed off because it's been brewing. It has to be in that moment because, we all know the training, like you train it, I'm not saying men or dogs, but it goes pee, cats pee too. You have to make it clear right away. This is what the infraction is. If you get mad later, it won't be clear that that was what it was. So you have to make it immediate in order to change their nervous system to keep it supple and moving. How's that?
We're so hot on the consort content. It's great.
I do all right sometimes. We have our
I
days.
just have another funny, it's just in my mind and it won't go away. I'm like, do you need to get consent? Do you need to do you need to tell someone like we're going to be doing this training, or do you just do it?
Oh no, it's beyond consent. They have to basically vow to give their life. It's much deeper vow than marriage.
Thank you.
And it has to be re-upped regularly. You have to be clear at every single point that they want this the way a drowning man wants air. Because otherwise they'll be just way too difficult. You don't need difficulties. You need somebody who's determined to come in and add to your life in such a way that you are in pitch perfect response with each other, carrying out whatever you're called to carry out.
So beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. So we have Jill. Can you say more about when you're kicked out? How do you make your way back in flight?
And this is Jill.
Jill.
Oh, so this is when you're a fallen bikini. Well, let me think for a minute here, okay? So I would say all loss of flight happens because you lied. And you lied to yourself, you lied to somebody else. Lying happened. And there was some sense of self-protection. And often what we're protecting is a kind of greed. It's really, if you just, you can see for yourself. I strongly suggest everyone see for themselves, because otherwise these are just words. I happen to know the layers because I live the layers every single minute. This is what I study. This is what I do. But see if that sounds true. Wait a minute. Every time, virtually, I lost flight. I don't know if it's every time, but every time I lost flight, it was because I lied. Is that true? Is that true? Okay. For me, it is. To myself or to someone else? I lied to myself or to someone else? Okay. And then why would I lie? You have to look at this. And you really have to look at this because in our culture, they don't get this. We don't get this. Every time it's for a self-serving reason. There's something that you wanted that you thought if you told the truth, you wouldn't get it. Simple. And so, or something you didn't want to lose that you thought you'd lose, or something you didn't want to have that you thought if you told the truth. Those are the three. And so you manufactured something. And now the manufacturing could be as simple as I don't have desire. I mean, it's not like they aren't like you aren't doing big grand larceny kind of lies. There are moments that you, or where you subtly, energetically grab something that isn't yours, or whatever the things are, and you justify it. Well, this is, they don't know how I grew up. They don't need it. They don't even treat it well, or whatever it is, right? So then you have to, every single flight, I was just thinking about this today, every single time you have to go through that process when you're stuck. Where did I last lie? And what was I protecting? And you look at that, and you look at what you have to do. Because if you lied, it's not, those are, how are you going to get back in? How are you going to build trust again in order to get back in? And the worst thing is that most people take up residence on the ground. Well, if they've been kicked out of flight, they get a little like, well, fuck you, I'll do my own thing. I got my own pad out here. And it was like, okay, you can do that. My process is I get back in as fast as I can. I don't care what it takes. I mean, there is no hell to me like being out of flight, but that's me. And it's like, give me back, give me back, give me back. I mean, I've written just totally humiliating letters even to people, like wanting so desperately to get back in. And then that even like kept me grounded more because the letters sounded so stupid. But you just, by any means necessary, you find your way back in. And the biggest one is just honesty, and honesty with yourself. All patterns are looking to be resolved. Your own patterns. You get out of flight as a kind of command to resolve something that keeps you hooked to the platform of self. There's something that keeps you hooked, a habit keeps you hooked to the platform of self. So you fall out down here in order to do the work, to dissolve whatever keeps you hooked to the platform. Do the work. Do the work as fast as you can. Do it with as much joy as you can in hell. Get back in flight. And then the most important thing is, if you are in flight, remember how precious it is. Remember, I said the DACA training, the most important thing is to remember. It's just, when you're in it, it's just like so great. It's so effortless. You have everything. And then all of a sudden that human pattern of taking it for granted. I'll always be in flight. This is cool. I can start taking this. I can start doing this. Ooh, a little bit of that. And then pretty soon you're just with all of your things in your hands. And the bikini saying, see, we told you those weren't, like, enjoy all of your things is basically what they say. There's some version of like, oh, you wanted that. Have it. In fact, let me take off this little leash from you so that you can have it day and night, morning. It is yours. You have all the time in the world for it. Enjoy it. And you just have to be like, no, 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 no. I don't care. No, I don't even want it. And you find your way back. That's if you want to be in flight. My understanding is not very many people do.
Thank you. This is Grace from Instagram. I have been single for a long time and have a deep desire for intimacy and a partnership with a man that is sometimes painful. Although I feel like I'm open and have done a lot of work, I'm not attracting anyone. So I'm wondering how to both be with my desire and also magnetize a man.
I have to be very careful with answering this question because I don't think this way. I'll just tell you how I think, and then we'll see what we can do. Because I don't look for anything. I don't look for a man. I don't look for a gig. I don't look for a job. I don't. That's not what I do. What I do is determine the state that I want to live in. And, state of freedom, state of arousal, state of joy that knows no opposite, state of non-suffering. And then from there, I listen to what you do to stay there. And this is actually going to be how you get a boyfriend too. So then you determine what you do to stay there. Well, lo and behold, what you do to stay there is you practice a kind of generosity with everyone, with your attention. And often, I mean, I understand when people are positive that they want a partner, so I'm just going to let you have that. But really, what we want is intimacy. The feeling behind wanting a partner is a sensation of intimacy. And intimacy is available at all times with anyone, anywhere. So I would look at your conditions, and I would say, am I willing to let those conditions go and have that certain kind of intimacy? Now, Geshe Michael has this great thing where he says, you can look at the video. He does it much better than I do, but or we'll post the video. But it really has to do with planting seeds of karma. The best thing to do is find somebody who wants what you want, and they don't have it either. And you tell them you'll help them, and you agree to meet weekly and help them to get a boyfriend. You find a woman who doesn't have a boyfriend, and you agree to help her to get a boyfriend, and you do it, and you give your most earnest effort to having her have a boyfriend, and then when she does, you celebrate. And that's a way. It's a very Buddhist way, simple Buddhist way, to plant the seeds of karma for positive experience to return to you. Then he says also, as you go to bed at night, think of 5 virtuous things that you did in the day, so that you're setting the mind into an open space for seeds to grow inside of positivity. We'll put the video up. He does it much better than I did. Gives you a basic idea.
Thank you. Samantha from Instagram, in orienting toward the North Star or deeper desire, how can you reverse engineer your steps? I can see this vision viscerally and up close, but I feel like I have a lot of open tabs, but no clear direction.
I want to start the Department of Rehumanization in Washington, D.C. That includes an arm called Dharmapala that brings dignity to the experience of being indicted, we'll say. But really, the whole purpose of the Department of Rehumanization would be to bring dignity, and in the same way we're rewilding nature, to rehumanize the human. I feel like we've lost that aspect. And I have a whole vision of how I want it to go. And so then what I do, that's the big goal, is I reverse engineer it. And that's your question. And by the way, if you want, I'm happy to send you a desire contract, and you can go through it and go through the process yourself. Although that sounds so cheesy. I don't know. I never know about this. Go through the 9-step process, but I really do go through this process. So you can go through it too, if you want. And so then I say, well, that's a big dream. So what would be the step? What would happen right before? Well, I probably the person who's in charge of, well, now it would be that I somehow connected with RFK Jr., who has the Maha side of things, who has this side that works with human dignity. Okay, so then that's the next step. Okay, well, who do I know who might know RFK? And how would I talk to them about this? Oh, that shows me I actually don't have a way to talk about it yet. I better write out that vision. Oh, okay, I better have a portfolio, something to do. Oh, I better have a series of people who agree that this is a great idea and will endorse it. So that when I enter and it's just ready, it's just a next step that rolls into the process happening. And so you just backward and backward and backward. Okay, and then who do I know? Well, I do know this one woman who worked at CrossFit, who was who had her own CrossFit and was very connected to that type of person. Ask her if she knows anyone. And that's where, see, the thing that we lose track of is the fun of the creative process, and saying, how would I do that? How would I do that? And making that call, and then sending that email. And oh my gosh. And remember, the first 10 steps in only get one result out. As you progress, you get more results because now you're flourishing. And so you make it into an entire game. That's how I've built everything that I've ever built. It's just been a single vision of what I desired, and then what would need to happen for that to happen, and then beginning to explore how to make it so. The one thing I want to say is, I don't know why things are so unnecessarily difficult or mysterious, except for the fact that I think that Americans don't love to work. Because if you just have a vision and lay it down backward, there's no way you can fail. There just isn't. It just takes a buttload of action in the process to make it so. And so that's really what I would say is, like, learn to love work, a lot of it. And then when you fall in love with work, you can eroticize it. When you eroticize your work, then just get to it and it'll happen.
Really came back full circle to the first question.
And stay in arousal so that you keep the fuel to keep going. Go ahead.
I am out of questions.
Oh, you are? Oh, great.
Day.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we have 3 more minutes. I think we're good. What do you think?
Yeah, that's great. So we're going to do a few reflections. So go ahead and raise your hand if you'd like to do one. We'll go to Rachel Kane.
That was so beautiful. I loved it so much. You said just like a number of times as you were speaking, you just said things and my chest and my like whole body relaxed. And I just love how you do that, but also like Eros does that, of it just like relaxes you back to who you are in this effortless, simple way.
That's right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. And I think I saw Rachel Regan's hand.
All the Rachels.
We are so biblical.
The last couple of talks have been incredible. I've just found myself in moments when you're answering the questions thinking I know the answer, and like the answer is going to come out of my mouth, and then you completely flip it and this whole world opens up and I'm like, oh, hot damn, like that was the thing, like that's the thing that takes me off on a tangent. And it was like you just alchemize things so beautifully and offer a new way, like in everything that you share. And in today's talk, oh, there was such a beautiful moment where you said, what did you say? You said, I made a vow that was more compelling than my habits.
That was deeper than my habits.
Deeper than my habits. And I just thought, oh, yes, I freaking made that one too.
That's right. It is the salvation. There's nothing like it. Yeah. Thank you. That was a really beautiful, beautiful reflection. Thank you.
And then we'll go to Russell.
Russell.
Nicole.
Hello.
I love the sort of like loving the thing that you are resisting, and sort of like take its magnetism power and sort of like use it to like swing around the thing that's in your way, something like that. There's just so many ways. You're very fine with the detail of different situations in which that metaphor works in, and you change the language to make it work intimately. So one of, you're welcome. And I was going to offer one thing that I've said to myself. Every day's a holiday, but then again, that means you work holidays.
Oh my God.
which is a cool thing. Yeah.
I love that. That's so, love that. Thank you.
And Austin?
I love today just the kind of like unwinding how you train a daka. It just had this kind of like snap to attention and assertiveness that was kind of crisp, and it would be lovely to have that as a man, I'm sure.
Interesting. Thank you, Austin. All right, so I am going to be back on Tuesday. I'm going to try to be back on Monday to do the Omari thing, but I have Ed Brown's birthday, so I'm going to celebrate with him, and then hopefully try to come back. But I don't think it'll work. So probably